Well, hello, and welcome to episode 13, live episode 2 of Out of Left Field. I'm Kevin, here with Jonathan. Jonathan, how do we follow us?
Hey Kevin, so we're on socials, Outer Left Field Podcast on Facebook, at Outer LF Pod, or the Out of Left Field Podcast on Twitter. Same thing on Substack, Outer LF Pod on Instagram, and our episodes, we're up live on YouTube right now. And the audio versions also go to Spreaker. And throughout the week, we repost our episodes, and also post our segments on Twitter or X, I
Yes,
should say.
yes. And it's been a while since we last podcast. I think it's more than a week. We were going to do this Sunday night, but I was too exhausted from working and everything else that I just slept, just continued to sleep through the when I got home from work after the a pretty significant moment in Canadian history as Canada in soccer. I think this is where we're going to start. Yes, a baseball podcast is going to talk about soccer. Recording this, by the way, post game after the Mariners defeat the Angels 8-3, the Blue Jays lose to the Mets 3-0. So this is Canada Day Eve when we have posted this. But to go back to Sunday, an incredible moment. Canada men beat Morocco, they play Morocco. They beat the South Africa 1-0, and Escobedo. How do you say his name again?
Stefan Estacio.
Estacio. My apologies, Stefan. A big goal, probably the biggest goal in men's soccer history. In extra time, I think we were all at work. We were a little nervous as it was going to penalty kicks. Glad that didn't happen. An incredible win, kind of a great moment. And yeah, facing Morocco on Saturday, who pulled a stunner in and of themselves. They said, Canada, you want to score late to advance to the next round. Hold my beer. We'll score with like literally 5 seconds to go to tie. And then they get into penalty kicks, and Morocco ends up winning that. So, that's a pretty incredible moment for Canada. And another incredible moment on the 4th of July, 10 o'clock a.m. in Houston. Canada plays Morocco for the right to go to the final 8.
Yeah, another historic moment for the soccer community in Canada. I was able to watch it live from an establishment on a patio outside in Victoria, and you could hear the crowd pops from the surrounding watch party. So it's really cool to witness that moment. And one of the things, we're not a soccer podcast, so we're not going to go deep into this, but one of the narratives following Canada's soccer team is their head coach, Jesse Marsh, and how expressive he is on the sidelines during games, and how unapologetically supportive he is of his team in his comments. And different people have different opinions on that. I just wanted to point our audience to an old friend and a mutual ex-follower of mine, Ben Steiner, who is out of Vancouver, and he has coverage of the Blue Jays and the Vancouver Canadians on his resume. He is currently covering the men's national soccer team at the World Cup for Sports Illustrated, and he penned a story, or posted a story, I guess, in today's world, about Jesse Marsh and comments that Marsh made pointing towards he witnessed what the Blue Jays run did to unify and galvanize the baseball community and the sports community in Canada, and said that was part of forming his vision for what he wanted to do with the soccer team. So that was cool. That was cool to read.
Yeah, and I was thinking one of the things that I was thinking about here too is Canada's not the favorite. Wouldn't have been the favorite against Netherlands. Won't be the favorite against Morocco. But I just wanted to point this out just as a kind of interesting little baseball connection. Everybody thought the Blue Jays would be absolutely flattened by the Dodgers in the World Series, and that went 7 games and extra innings. The funny thing about sports is sports happen, and look, the crowd in LA was very pro-Canadian. I think that crowd in Houston is going to be very pro-Canadian. One thing, they will travel to support their team. It should be in Canada, by the way. These games should be in Canada as a host nation. It's absolute nonsense that this is in the US. It's ridiculous to me that this has happened. Whole other subject. We'll let the soccer folks handle that. But I wanted to say that. It's ridiculous that this is in Houston. But they are going to be a pro-Canadian crowd, and that is going to help, I think, a lot. Who knows? Play the game. We'll see what happens.
Yep, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could jump in here, and since there was mention of the World Series in our opened last year's World Series, I wonder if we could start with a pretty big moment that mainly has Blue Jays appeal, but I think it has baseball-wide appeal that happened this week. Yesterday, actually, is Bo Bichette's return to Toronto to play the Blue Jays for the first time with the Mets. Anticipated moment from the fan base. Bo Bichette spent 10 years in the organization, was one of 2 super prospects coming up at the same time with Vladdy Guerrero. 7 years in the big leagues, the World Series run last year, the home run in Game 7 that should have been the iconic moment, but it wasn't because they couldn't close it out. There was a little bit of questioning what the reception for Bichette would be when he played his first game back at Rogers Center last night, but it turned out the way I think it should have turned out. It was 100% positive reception from the fans. A couple of minutes pre-game, they ran a video to give him a proper moment. Vladdy, when Bo walked up for his first at-bat, Vladdy motioned to Bo to make sure he took his helmet off and acknowledged the crowd. So full marks. And even tonight in Game 2, Kevin Gausman, before Bo's first at-bat, threw a ball out when he didn't need to stall for time so the crowd could acknowledge him again. So it went great. He fully deserves it. And I think another notable moment before Monday's game was Bo's media availability in the dugout before Monday night's game. Of course, media was asking him about his time in Toronto and his relationship with Vladdy. And Bichette is notoriously stoic and non-emotional, doesn't let you in. He was fully teared up when he started trying to talk about the Blue Jays, and actually had to stop for a period of time to compose himself again. So he let his full feelings be shown, which was pretty revealing to see. But yeah, it was great. The series and the games should have had more punch. I think Blue Jays fans wish the Jays were doing a little better, and the Mets are doing what the Mets usually do. So the games aren't as big as I think we wish they would have been. But it was a big moment, handled pretty well, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hold that thought. Sorry, we didn't discuss this before. Let's go through the Mariners stuff first because they finished first, and then we'll do the Blue Jays, and then we'll. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I wonder if you're cool if we tease this weekend a little bit, and then we'll jump into Mariners.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to come into this weekend probably two frustrated teams for different reasons. I think for the Mariners, although they are winning and they just won the series with the Angels, they this hasn't exactly been. I think that there's an argument with the Mariners, a legitimate argument that the Mariners are probably the most disappointing team in the MLB this year in the first half. Sure, they're still somewhat in a playoff position, but they are one game over 500. They are a half game behind Texas, who are absolutely rolling right now, as you saw as the Blue Jays. Yes, they're so in a playoff spot, but I don't think that anybody was expecting them to be 44 and 43 in the third wild card spot. So I think for the Mariners, they come into this weekend, I still think they're trying to get their footing back together. They're a way better team at home than they are on the road. We'll get into that a little bit here. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess, from the Mariners' perspective coming into this weekend, that's how I think the Mariners are coming in. A bit frustrated. And you could see, we'll get into this with the Mariners, but I think the fans are very frustrated. There's a very tense, nervous feeling within the Mariner fan base right now.
Yeah.
And there was a moment tonight. There was a moment in the game tonight we'll talk about that showed it.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much same thing with the Blue Jays, just probably a little bit worse. No one thought they'd be where they are record wise. Vlad's been a no-show all year. Pitching hasn't been good, so I think we're in the same boat there. But it'll be interesting to see the Jays and Mariners play again in Seattle for a weekend series. There's probably going to be pretty good Jays representation in Seattle, as there usually is for that series. It might bring, despite this year not going to plan so far for both teams, I don't know about you, but I think it'll probably bring back some memories of last October.
Yeah, well, it's a 4th of July weekend, so that's an interesting weekend. And just from the Blue Jays fans' perspective out here, it is easier to get out here to get to a Mariners game than it is to go to Toronto. It's actually cheaper. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people go to Seattle to catch the Blue Jays as opposed to going to Toronto. It's cheaper for flights. It's cheaper to travel, especially out in BC and Alberta, where us two are from. But can I please talk to my friends in Seattle here? Just give me a moment.
Go for it.
Look, I get it. You don't want the funny Canadians and their funny accents coming, and you just don't want to be in that atmosphere. But please show up. Please show up. Like, come on. Your team went to the American League Championship Series last year. They are doing the best that they can. There's a lot. Look, we'll discuss. I understand some frustrations, but you showed up for the playoffs last year. Show up this weekend. Don't let those Canadian hosers go in and take over T-Mobile Park. Okay. I want more Mariners blue than Blue Jay blue in T-Mobile Park. I get why Jonathan and all of you guys go down there. I want you all to feel rejected. I want you all to go back home and feel, man, I can't get into T-Mobile Park because I can't get any damn tickets. I want Mariner fans to load that place. I really do. It's about damn time that happens.
Yeah, seeing it from your side, you're right about that. I've gone once.
I get mad that the Maple Leaf fans and the Canadian fans invade the hockey places like the Saddle Dome and Rogers Arena. Like, just show up for your team. Don't let the other team come in and invade you. Stop it.
Yeah, if I were on your side, I would see it that way too. And I've been one time before, and I have several really good friends from the Seattle area who are big Mariners fans. And when I was down there, I actually heard from some people who said that they, or people they know, Mariners fans, actually stay away from that series because it just angers them to see the Canadians take over their park. And Mariners fans staying away because they don't like it makes it worse.
Yeah, just show up. Just show up. That's all. It's a fun series, I think, for everybody involved. So I think, and also probably a pretty important series for both teams going into this as well. But let's talk. Let's do the Mariners first, and then we'll do the Blue Jays here. I kind of want to start with the game tonight because there was it's records are kind of the theme of the Mariners right now here. Tonight, a record was set at T-Mobile Park. Record was set by Bryan Woo. Bryan Woo has now the record for consecutive scoreless innings, which I believe is at 33 now, breaking Felix Hernandez and Jamie Moyer's record. Fernandez did that back in 2010. It's such a weird situation with Bryan Woo. Bryan Woo, the home pitcher, is a Cy Young, top of the league type of pitcher. His slider is impossible to hit. Like tonight, Jonathan, like it was so funny to watch some of these Angels swings. Like they were way outside the zone. There was like a couple of pitches that went to Spokane and they were swinging. Like Woo was on target. His road record is just not the same as his home record right now. It's unbelievably different. And he knows it. The team knows it. He's trying to work on that. So, but yeah, he set a record. This is after the Mariners tied a franchise record this week after going 13 straight games, getting 3 runs or less, which included a trip to Pittsburgh at PNC Park, where you should not get 3 runs or less in 3 straight games. It's Pittsburgh. That's one of the best hitting parks in baseball. You should not get 3 less. But that's what happened. And then also a couple of other things happened this weekend as well. Cal Raleigh is hitting 165 with 8 home runs and 23 RBIs. He was moved to 6th in the order on Saturday. He's been 5th in the order for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday night. He had an opportunity to tie the game on Saturday, couldn't do it. He had an opportunity tonight to break the game wide open, and a pitch like right down Main Street of Seattle, right down the highway of Seattle. He doesn't swing. He's really struggling right now, and he knows it. He took an accountable moment this Sunday. So he's really struggling. The offense is just been terrible this month. Other than the Colt Young and Colt Emerson, it's like there's not home runs. I was trying to find this stat, but I heard a stat that their batting average was lower than 4 teams' OPS. Or like it was so bad. It was so bad. Like the Detroit Tigers, as an example, have hit 48 home runs this month. Not even close. The Mariners are not even close to that. By the way, their Tigers record is like it was like close to 500, despite the fact of how many runs they scored, which is incredibly weird. That's a weird stat. So, yeah. So Cal Raleigh struggling, offense really struggling, but the drop dead moment for Mariner fans this week, and this that will play into tonight, was in the 8th inning of the game against Cleveland. They were up in that game 4-1 in the bottom of the 8th inning. They bring in now during this game or during this weekend, they changed their rotation. So they had Logan Gilbert pitch Saturday and he went 8 innings. They had Emerson Hancock pitch Sunday. He goes 5 innings and it's 105 pitches. So they bring in Bizzardo and Spear, who were really dynamite. Allow 3 hits, 1 strikeout, no runs. Michael Rucker comes in. Michael Rucker allows in a third of in an inning or a third of an inning, 2 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks. Then Josh Simpson comes in his debut. He blew 2 in 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk. So the bullpen blows a pretty effective start for Emerson Hancock. 1 run and 5 hits, 6 strikeouts. You have a big lead. You had a 4-1 lead. This is the first time in over 13 games. And not only that, there was this absolutely foolish, like just bizarre challenge for Dan Wilson on the winning run, where it was bottom of the 8th. It's a double to left field. Wilson makes 2 challenges, and they both don't miss. He challenges it. It's a foul ball. It clearly was not. And Mitch Garver didn't have the ball in his hand for the tag. He drops it, and that's an overturned challenge as well. So they just completely came unglued in Seattle on Sunday afternoon. There's a lot of people just really frustrated with Dan Wilson and the managing decisions that he has made. This piggyback situation is not working here, and it's not just being poorly used in terms of, like, it's been poorly communicated. So it's causing, like, if I'm a member of the starting pitching staff of the Seattle Mariners, I'm probably really pissed at this team for A, the lack of offense, B, the lack of communication going on here. So this team is coming in a little frustrated, and you felt that nerves here against the Angels in this game. So the game is scoreless for 5 innings. The Mariners get 5 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning, mostly through singles. They only had 1 double and 11 singles in this game, no home runs. And then all of a sudden, the top of the 7th, the bases are loaded by the Angels. They get 3 runs, and you just felt the crowd just get a lot more nervous. And I was feeling that nerves too. It's like, this is Sunday all over again. But it ends up being 5-3. The Mariners do get 3 more runs in the bottom of the 7th, and they do win 8-3. But I still think that this is just a very nervous fan base right now that is, I think, ultimately feeling a little disappointed where this team is. And we know that the American League, except one team, is very bad this year. But it just looks like Cal Raleigh looks so, he's struggling. The offense isn't there. The pitching is great, but most of the time the pitching is better at home than they are on the road. It just doesn't feel like this team is a World Series contender, but it doesn't feel like one most games. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the Mariners. And also Justin Hollander, the Mariners GM, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
He has a rant on Monday defending the training staff, because people online on social media were attacking the training staff because there's a number of injuries. Brendan Donovan's still out. Rob Refsnyder is on the IL, which I think is mostly trying to buy this. And I believe he's injured, but I also believe that they're trying to buy some time with Rob Refsnyder, who has not been a good ad for the Mariners here. In he was supposed to be a potent right-handed bat against left-handed pitching, and it hasn't worked at all. And I don't know what your thoughts are on these types of situations, but for me, I don't know if you need to engage with the trolls on social media. I just don't like from a general manager perspective. I understand that you want to defend your team. I think that that's an admirable goal, but I don't think you need to you acknowledge the trolls on social media. I think that you can say that saying, "Hey, I know we're hearing comments about the training staff. They're doing a great job," and that's all you need to say. I don't think you need to engage with social with the internet trolls. They're trolling.
Yeah,
Let it go.
yeah, I'm similar. I think I'm all good if he's seeing and hearing those things and he just wants to publicly back his team and his staff. And I listened to the clip, but then he goes further, kind of like you said, and starts mentioning the bad elements on the internet and kind of in a derogatory way cited sports talk radio hosts. So I don't know if there's someone specifically in Seattle he was going after there with that little dig, but I'm good if you want to uh, if if you want to support your team and your staff. Yeah, I just don't think you need to validate the noise and specifically talk negative about the noise because guess what? You're in the big leagues and you're in a market that wants to win. Noise from outside places is part of the deal. So I think it takes away from it when he starts trying to drag people on the internet and radio hosts.
Yeah, there's no need to. Yeah, I just don't think there's any need to do that. I, you know, just yeah, yeah. It just feels like it just creates more drama, and we know that social media is already toxic. It's so easy to go online and get negative about your team. You see that with the Blue Jays. I see that with the Mariners. We see that with other things as well. It is the fail safe is to go online and be negative. I just don't think he needed to. I don't think he needed to acknowledge the internet trolls. And if there was a comment towards a sports radio talk show, talk to the sports radio talk show in person in private. I don't know if a public feud helps anybody. And the fact of the matter is the Mariners are a solid 2 in the Seattle market behind the Seahawks, and they're not. I mean, the only real threat to their number 2 is if and when they get a basketball team. The Kraken are never going to crack 2, I don't think, at this or not at this point, and the Seahawks are too far ahead of them. So they're solid 2. They don't need to engage in this sort of nonsense. They just, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just don't think it was. I don't think it was necessary. It's understandable why, but not necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
I will have one more thing. I have a surprise for you. I just came across something, but I want you to talk about the Blue Jays, and then I'm going to surprise you with something.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just saw this before we went on, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. So Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think unless there's anything else about the Mariners we need to talk about, there are
I think.
yeah.
I think we're good there. Blue Jays, yeah. Last week, I talked going into this 10-game homestand about this kind of being I don't know if make or break is the right phrase, but this 10-game homestand they're in the middle of right now was going to tell us whether they're serious or not. And I specifically said on here I wanted to see a 7-3 or an 8-2 to definitively make a statement that we're serious. Well, they've started the homestand 1-7.
So you kind
So,
of got what you wanted, but just the exact opposite way.
well, what happened is what I said was going to happen. We were going to find out who this team is. As a fan, I was hoping it would go the other way, but
I
they've
was trying to be funny with that joke, by the way. I'm sorry, it didn't. It that landed like a lead balloon.
no, I picked it up. So 1-7. Yeah, they're pretenders. Their pitching's breaking down with all the overuse of the bullpen and starters not going deep and too many bullpen days. So that's probably gonna might only get worse as the season goes on. But the bad week really kicked off on Tuesday when Joey Loperfido, now of the Houston Astros again, hit a game-winning home run. And it was Joey Loperfido, who the Jays traded back to Houston in the offseason in exchange for Jesus Sanchez, and that has gone disastrously. Um, the Loperfido hitting the game-winning home run in Toronto is just kind of an in-your-face heel turn a little bit. But Sanchez hasn't. They brought him in because they thought they could be the team that would unlock his power potential, and it hasn't happened consistently. And he's been an absolute circus on defense. And that trade seems to have set a negative trend this year for the Blue Jays. They seem to have lost all the identity that made them good last year. And for a few years before this year, they were all about, as Ross Atkins would call it, run prevention. They were all about defense and pitching. That's what kept them in it. And then when their offense got rolling, that's when they turned into a World Series contender. But they've lost their defensive identity. Their pitching, like I said, is burned out. They don't give themselves a chance to win. A lot of mental mistakes on the bases still. Um, yeah, they've completely lost their way, and that Loperfido for Sanchez trade um, seems like the start of. Seems like it was the start of them kind of losing their identity or losing their focus in the front office. So yeah, that wasn't good. Um, so
Uh,
yeah, I don't.
I have a question. Can I ask a question about
Yeah,
Joey Loperfido?
yeah.
Because I know I tend to understand where you're coming from in terms of this is a bad trade for the Blue Jays, but was like I'm trying to remember. I don't remember Joey Loperfido in the playoff run last year. Did he play? I don't recall.
I He didn't play much. He hit pretty well in the regular season, but he didn't play much in the playoffs. Um, but I think they saw um, a kind of what was in line with their offense last year. A good, um, a, a, a gritty at bat, a good gap to gap line drive hitter. Um, and he is a good offensive player, just not the power bat. And I think they got desperate when they brought in Sanchez, because it was when they knew they weren't getting Bichette back, and they were probably starting to get desperate at that point to replace the power that they saw they were going to be losing. I think he would have been a better fit with this year's team. Um, like I said, Sanchez is completely unreliable in the field, which is completely backwards from how this team needs to play. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fast, like when I watch the Blue Jays, it's either defensively, it's either, wow, that is a great play by Nathan Lucas, or my God, that ball is running around that it is a defensive circus. Like it's either spectacular defense or bad defense, and it's nothing in between. And
Yep.
which is it is the problem. Like they can make the diving spectacular uh, catch. Like Nathan Lucas made a really nice play against the Mets on Wednesday night, but there's other plays is just like it's confusing.
Yep.
It's
And
like bad defense.
on the infield too, Andres Jimenez can be a magician at shortstop, but he's kind of been banged up a little bit, hasn't been playing as much. And Ernie Clement, he can be great defensively, but I think the everyday role, that's the first year he's been an everyday player. I think um, the everyday role is banging him up physically a little bit, and you've seen some lapses from him. So yeah, um, yeah. It with I'll just navigate over to the updated standings as of tonight. But just got.
Oh, you still there?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah,
Okay.
it just got me thinking about the rest of the season for the Blue Jays and how should they behave leading up to the trade deadline. Um, should they be like you said? There's been actually, I'll start here. The top two records in the American League are in the AL East. It's the Rays and the Yankees. And pretty much everybody else is having a disappointing year. So that
The
third wild,
Yankees are absolutely lost without Aaron Judge at this point.
yeah,
Like
and
they have
we'll
lost
get
six.
into
Yeah. Anyway,
we'll get into them in a few minutes. So should the Jays be a modest buyer because they still have a shot at that third wild card? I can see that, and I think that's probably the most likely scenario. But they have, I think it's 4 teams they have to leapfrog now to get the third wild card. And if you get the third wild card, would that mean they're playing the Rays? I think. Um, and
you'd be playing the probably at this point the Texas Rangers, who are
okay,
leading the American League West. So let's just quickly go through the standings. You got the AL leaders are Tampa, who is at 49 and 33, best record in the American League. The White Sox are leading the Central, are in second at 45 and 39. The Texas Rangers are 44 and 42. They've won 6 in a row, by the way, and are in first in the American League West. The wildcard teams are the New York Yankees, and they're up 5 on the Cleveland Guardians, who do not have Jose Ramirez right now, by the way. And the Seattle Mariners are holding down that third wild card spot. They're a game and a half ahead of Houston, who has a better record than the last 10 of the Mariners. And the Blue Jays are 3.5 back, sitting there with the not Oakland Athletics, Sacramento, the Athletics. Just call them the damn Athletics, Kevin. But both of them are 40 and 46. Okay, so can I throw my surprise at you now?
Sure.
There is an article on Seattle Sports that is suggesting that the Seattle Mariners go out and get George Springer from the Toronto Blue Jays as the Mariners. And I'm connecting this. You're talking about whether they should buy or sell. The belief in most of the Seattle is probably still buy. First of all, let me ask you this: Do you see the Blue Jays trading George Springer?
Probably not, but it could happen. My thing is like that kind of shocked me that there's talk about someone bringing in Springer because he's had a horrible year and he can't play the outfield. Isn't hitting at all. So why would anyone want to bring him in? And that's my thing with the Blue Jays debating whether the Jays would trade him. It's because what are you going to get for him?
I think the thinking would be from the Mariners side is if you just have him in a pitch hit DH type of role that you wanted Rob Refsnyder in, that might be able to work. Like he doesn't have to be, like he wouldn't have to be the power. He wouldn't have to be the offensive leader that he was in Houston and Toronto. He would just have to be it would almost be Clayton Kershaw-esque in the sense of like you have him on the roster, and if you need him to provide a big hit, he could do it because he's shown he has done it before. I just feel gross with this idea of George Springer on the Mariners. First of all, I just cannot do it. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely sorry. I just. I don't think it's worth the risk to do it from the Mariners' perspective either. I just think he's not healthy. Like he's not like he's hitting 221 this year. Like 8 home runs, 21 RBIs. As you mentioned, he can't play the field. I mean, you've already got a defensive liability already in Randy Arozarena. I understand the need for the bat. I just don't think George Springer is the bat. In my mind. So what I think is going to be the difference here, I think that I think we need to change the trajectory here in the American League. I think it's the team that finds a way to make a baseball trade is going to be the one that finds their way through this. And I think there are ways to make baseball trades instead of it's always been about buying and selling. But if you can make like a baseball trade, like pitcher for something, like those kind of trades are probably the ones that are going to get you through. And of course, everybody finds bullpen help. The other fascinating part about the American League is I have a really bad feeling that the Detroit Tigers are still going to have something to say about the playoffs. I know they're 5-5. We had a conversation about we had on a couple of podcasts, episode 10, or a few episodes ago. We had a conversation about either A, the Blue Jays, or B, the Mariners picking up Tarek Skubal. That pitching staff is all set now. Jack Flaherty's back. They've got Hilton back. Valdez is.
Nice.
Yeah. there is a legitimate argument. I don't think I'm making a spicy take here that the Detroit Tigers might have the best pitching staff in the American League. I know they're 12 games under 500 and 6.5 back. I have a funny feeling about them. I really do.
Yeah.
They're Riley Green legit, Dylan Dinger legit. They've got a really solid team in Detroit that I think people need to watch out for. But ultimately, I think this will be about baseball trades and who can do it and who can't in the American League. I still think it's wide open for the taking. Like, do we want to talk about the Yankees now?
Sure.
We're kind of, I'm sorry, all over the map here.
Okay.
2-8 in their last 10. Tonight they lose to the Tigers 9-3. They lose 7-3. They got swept by the Red Sox last weekend. They're still without Aaron Judge for 3 or 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
The Cam Schlittler Cy Young tour seems to be over. They're close to they're still kind of in this divisional battle with the Rays, but to me, there's no question who the better team is. The Yankees, I think, still have a lot to fall back to, which if the Blue Jays or the Orioles get hot, that is another pathway in. I mean, it's tough. I will say it feels tough to see the Blue Jays winning the AL East, but is it unrealistic to say that you could find another wild card spot under the third one? And I should say that for both of our teams. Cleveland is stumbling along here a little bit too without Jose Ramirez, which is a pretty significant injury that nobody is talking about. You've got the White Sox, who I still think are going to fall flat to earth at some point. Minnesota's Minnesota. I don't know. If you sweep the Mariners this weekend, you're at 43 and you got 43 wins at least. You're at least 43 and 46, and you've made a dent into within the wild card spot. I don't think I see why the world is tilted in concern, but it can tilt the other way, and we're just entering the second half of the season.
But the Blue Jays just dropped Patrick Corbin from their rotation because they've hit the expiry date on his effectiveness. So they don't have a full rotation again, and they're back to Braden Fisher opening games, which he'll do tomorrow on Canada Day. The hypothetical of if they sweep the Mariners, can they be back in the wild card chase? Sure. Will they? Absolutely not. They don't have the pitching stability, and they don't have the bats. So I don't see that for them at all. What I think, just to wrap the trade deadline stuff up, what I think they'll end up doing is being a very modest buyer, bring in some modest pitching help to just help get through the year without hurting your arms if possible, because they still have a bunch of arms in their pen that are in the top 10 in appearances. So I think they'll just do some patchwork to get through healthy. But I don't think they have selling options. Like in 2024, they made some trades at the deadline that brought in some pretty significant pieces who are now playing for them. But they don't have those kind of trade pieces this year, so they don't have the option to sell. So I think they'll just be a small buyer and not enough to give up anything significant because this team isn't serious. But if they sneak into the third wild card, I've said before that if the top of the rotation performs, Cease, Gosman, and Savage, that if they show up, that gives them a chance to win a 3-game wildcard series. So, yeah.
I have a couple more questions that just popped in my head.
Yep.
When is it time? Is it time to have a conversation about? Am I ridiculous in suggesting 2 players? Possibly one kind of has been already talked about, Kevin Gossman. So I'll ask about him. Is there a conversation to be had about him being traded to get more pieces and kind of restock the cupboard? I don't want to say rebuild, restock the cupboard.
That's possible. And now that you bring that up, he's the one guy that I wasn't thinking about that would bring them back something, because he's had a decent year. His last 2 starts have been really bad and blown up his numbers. But before the last 2 starts, he's pretty much been who he's always been, a mid-3s ERA guy that will pitch deep into games for you. So, yeah, if they look at it honestly, that they're not a threat to do anything significant in October, then yeah, I could see them moving him, because he's the type of arm that other teams would want. So yeah, I could see that if they decide to throw up the white flag on this season. Yeah.
Because I mean, I think the other pitcher that's going to be part of the conversation this year is at the trade deadline is probably, just because of his contract situation, is Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins. But as Jeff Passan has suggested, there was always he put throughout the idea of Alcantara for Gossman. So that's partly where I came up with the idea of Gossman. But I do have one more name, and we've talked about him before, and I'm not a fan. But I'm going to bring him up because I do wonder when do you have the conversation about trading Vlad Guerrero?
That's not it. No, not. I don't think they could.
You could get a lot for him.
A 13-year contract for half a bill, and he's on pace for 7 home runs.
I'd say good. Well, there's the Mets. The Mets will do it. They'll. It's money. They like that kind of thing.
You're getting ripped off if you're trading him right now. He's not worth anything right now, and he's got one of the biggest contracts in the game. Buying at the lowest moment in his career is not the time to do it. And it's an awful year, but I still think the 30 and 100 Vladdy is in there. Not this year. This year's gone. But if you look back in his numbers, it's not just that 48 home run year in minor league parks. There's multiple 30 home run seasons in there, 100 RBI pace. I think that guy's in there. It's perplexing how it has never gotten back on the tracks this year. But no, that guy is still, I think, going to be the bat that they're going to build around for the future. And yeah, and I think this is the worst time to think about moving him. So if I'm the Blue Jays, that's not even in my head.
Okay. I just thought I would bring it up because those are the two. There's 2 or 3 guys I could see getting you quite a bit: Gossman, Guerrero, and Kirk. I think Kirk could probably get you a lot. And I do think there's an argument.
He's your stud long-term catcher, so they're not doing Kirk.
Depending on where you think Where are you at with Venezuela?
Brandon
He does hit.
Valenzuela. He's
Yeah.
he's a stud. He's gonna be uh part of your catching tandem for the next 6 years. You can hit and he can play defense, so
So you don't think Kirk is an option to trade at some point?
I don't think either one of them are. They're set at catcher for the long term, and they've got Kirk on a pretty good deal. So no, it's this team isn't gonna drop this. If you move a Guerrero or Kirk, those are guys with contracts that are supposed to be part of the backbone of your team, and this team isn't gonna go into rebuild mode. They're
I
coming
do.
off. Sorry.
I do agree with you on that. I agree that they're not going into a rebuild.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
if you move Vladdy or Kirk, those are rebuild modes. They're getting a lot of money off the books. They're getting Springer, Varsho, Gosman, Bieber off the books, Scherzer. So I think they're going to reload in the offseason, and they're in a great place behind the dish with Kirk and Valenzuela as a 1-2 or a 1A and a 1B. And a good team starts up the middle. So they're going to keep the catching. And yeah, like I said, it's not time to think about trading Vladdy. So I think, yeah, once they get some big tickets off the books at the end of this season, they're going to look at reloading.
There. One more. I'm sorry, I keep doing this. Whose seat is hotter going into this weekend? John Schneider's or Dan Wilson's?
You can speak to Dan Wilson a little bit more. It's Schneider is warm, not hot. Um, it's puzzling how, like I said, this team had such a fundamentally sound and tough to play against identity last year, and they lost all of it this year. So that's puzzling. I'm a fan of continuity though, and I think they have something in Schneider. I do. And like I said about the players, they're not going into rebuild. So if you get rid of Schneider, then who are you going to bring in to keep winning? Would an Alex Cora be interested, or Rob Thompson? Like, it's probably that kind of guy that you would want to bring in to keep the winning window open, because this team's probably going to be running close to a $300 million payroll again next year. I don't know. If the Jays would have fired Schneider this year, I think it would have been closer to the timing of Rob Thompson when he was fired. I think when the Phillies were 9-19, because they still knew they could win, and guess what? They're back to winning. So I think if the Jays were going to fire Schneider this year, I think it would have been early to keep trying to win. But this year's it is what it is now. So it absolutely could happen, but I think they'll end up keeping Schneider.
Yeah. I feel like some of the fan base in Mariner Land has a hotter seat for Dan Wilson than the organization. I don't believe that the organization is even remotely considering Dan Wilson, firing Dan Wilson. But I think a lot of people, a lot of Mariner fans are out there suggest not incredibly impressed with Dan Wilson, especially how he's handling the pitching staff. But I don't believe it's only him handling the pitching staff. I think that this is an organizational decision. So I don't know if this is all on Dan Wilson, but it's fair to point a finger at Dan Wilson. But I think, quite frankly, it's fair to point a finger at the. Um, I think that the biggest concern with Dan Wilson is just the fact that I think that someone with experience, I think a lot of Mariner fans feels can get them to the World Series, and Dan Wilson doesn't have, and that's the big concern around that. I don't think Dan Wilson's seat is hot. I think that Mariner fans are very frustrated with him, though, but I don't think the organization is thinking of letting him go.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about it. It's interesting with the Blue Jays. It's interesting that they had Don Mattingly on staff, and he left in the offseason, and he ends up getting the Phillies job when Thompson is fired. And when Mattingly left the Blue Jays, he made a comment that he didn't. I don't remember the wording of it, but basically said he didn't feel as needed on the Jays staff. So, kind of a perception that John Schneider was the man going forward, and said he didn't feel as needed in Toronto, so he moved on. If Don Mattingly was still on staff in Toronto, yeah, much higher likelihood that Schneider could get fired because they'd have an experienced major league manager there to take right over. But he's gone, and that might have changed things a little bit. And just like with, it's a bit of a, sounds like a bit of an excuse. But this Jays offense has missed so much of what they thought they had coming into the year offensively that I don't think you move on from your manager. Look at George Springer has gone right back to 2024 George Springer. Now with Springer, you could question Schneider why he hasn't moved him down in the lineup. Same with Vladdy. Addison Barger has been injured all year and just re-injured himself in rehab. And Barger hit 23 home runs last year, hit 400 in the World Series. They saw him as a real power and production bat. So they offensively they haven't had core players or core performances that this team flat out needed to be competitive. So I don't think you move him or I don't think you move on from Schneider after a year like that.
No, I don't really either. I don't like just. I mean, the expectations are really high in Toronto right now, and the hopes are really high in Toronto, and I get it. I think he's generally. There's one part. I mean, there's an old saying in all sports: you can't fire the player, so you fire the coach.
Yep.
That's part of it, but like sometimes you make decisions and you got to put the onus on the player for not doing the job that it's required to do. As an example, Dan Wilson putting in Michael Rucker as a reliever. He didn't get and Josh Simpson. The fact is, they didn't get the job done, so that decision looks terrible ultimately. But they didn't get the job done. Where the balance of blaming the manager and the player is a kind of more of a nuanced conversation. But I think,
but yeah, for sure. If players are executing, the manager looks great.
Yep. Well, speaking of managers, let's there's a few things in the MLB that we can kind of touch on here. Carlos Mendoza was fired by speaking of managers, was fired by the New York Mets on last Friday. The Mets are off to a painfully dreadful start, currently 36-50, which is last in the NL East and second last in the NL behind the Colorado Rockies. This is a team that has a ton of payroll, but this is a team that also has been dealing with some injuries too, specifically Marcus Semien. I think that's a tough loss, but again, they traded Marcus Semien for Brandon Nimmo. They spent a lot of money because that's what the Mets do. They don't develop. And a comedy of errors in Monday's game against the Blue Jays with that inside Springer's little league home run. And we talking about Springer's injuries and all of that just kind of symbolizes everything that the Mets have been this year. Again, you can't fire the players, so you fire the manager. But it's a bad, blame Mendoza all you want. This is just a bad baseball team in New York.
Well, and it's just so Mets that there was a report out this week talking about how Juan Soto is allowed to go back inside to the cages and just hang out all by himself during games, and he's been joined by the assistant general manager, and the AGM was asked about that, and the question posed to him was about the young players seeing Soto being treated with different roles, and the AGM says that, well, the other players have to learn that they're not Juan Soto. So that seems a little messed up, a little bad message to send to the rest of your team. And it was on Monday when the Mets were making a pitching change, and it's Andy Green, who's the interim manager for the Mets. He was coming out to make a pitching change, and Francisco Lindor at short was seen as Green is walking out to the mound, screaming at him to not make the change. So just optically, all kinds of dysfunction. And you talk about Soto mishandling Springer's ball to left field to lead off the first inning on Monday, and results in Little League home run for Springer. So but it's the Mets. It's typical Mets being Mets.
Yep. Yeah. It kind of reminded me also, there was that situation with San Francisco and Rafael Devers, a pitch hitter. They bring in a pitch runner. Yeah. And Devers is pointing back to the dugout. No, you go back. I'm like, dude, you're slow. Get off the field. Just let the manager do their job. Yeah, it's incredibly weird. Anyway, yeah. Talk of Alex Cora, of course, Rocco Baldelli, David Ross, who was the former Cubs manager, Carlos Beltran also in that conversation as a possible replacement for that organization, which, yeah, it is an absolute mess in in New York. We talked about the Yankees. I do the one other thing I wanted to let's talk about the Marlins before we get to this cool story, because this is a cool story too. The Marlins went 20-6 in June. Otto Lopez, we've had a couple of conversations about him as probably being a premier Canadian baseball player. Owen Casey, Liam Hicks as well. Of course, we do focus on Canadian content here. By the way, happy Bobby Bonilla Day as well.
Yes.
It's he gets his millions of dollars today too on July 1st for that long contract. Speaking of the Mets, anyway, 20-6. They are looking at the wild card. Yeah. They're actually tied with St. Louis for the final wild card spot. Amazingly enough, both in the Cardinals to retool and rebuild, even the Cardinal fans, they will have none of it. Both of these teams, yeah, it's exciting to, yeah, I think a lot of Canadians part of that situation.
Yeah, we were talking earlier in the season. I think I was praising the Braves for the great start they had, and looked like they were back. They were gonna be back to where they were a couple years ago, and being one of the teams to threaten the Dodgers. And they just can't. They just flat out can't score in June.
No.
And so they had a sizable lead at one point, and now they're 2.5 up on the Phillies, and only 4.5 up on the Marlins, who you were talking about earlier in the season, or even a couple of weeks ago. You were talking about the Marlins like an exciting team on the rise, and dude, they're only 4.5 back of the Braves. So that's it's questionable whether they have the staying power this year. But yeah, with those three Canadians who are major factors in it, by the way, especially Hicks and Lopez. Yeah, that's been cool to see. A franchise record 20 wins in the month of June.
Yeah, good story, Miami, for sure. I wanted to shout out Brooke Fletcher. Last weekend was a pretty special weekend for her, and last week was a special week for her. She is the first woman color commentator in Chicago White Sox history. She called a game, I believe, on last Tuesday, when the White Sox played. Let me go back on the schedule here. They played the Cleveland at Hartley. Yeah, it was during that Cleveland Guardian series that she called a game, and she got presented with a game card. It was kind of a fun little interview. She interviews her dad. Her dad is Scott Fletcher, was part of the '83 White Sox. That was the winning ugly team. And so she's doing the interview, talking about the memories that her dad has with this team. And then her dad presented her with the game card of the game that she called. And I thought it was a really cool, just kind of a cool moment for both the Scott and Brooke. And it's kind of one of those romantic moments of baseball and family and the connection that everybody has. And, look, Brooke has worked very hard to get to where she is. She is deserving of her role. And it was just a great family moment and a touching moment. And always kind of have a smile on my face when I see something like that. And I just wanted to congratulate Brooke Fletcher for that, and the Fletcher family. I thought it was a cool story.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we are also, what are we now? About 2 weeks away from the All-Star game, which is in Philadelphia. You are being encouraged to vote for the All-Star game. by your various websites. And the one team that is definitely doing it is your Blue Jays, Jonathan.
Yeah.
They're voting. They are absolutely going to the ballot box. You take it from here.
Yeah. So, Ernie Clement was the top vote getter in the American League in Phase 1. So he is automatically the starting second baseman for the American League. He was, as I said, the top vote getter in the AL. He was 100,000 behind Ohtani. Guerrero was the top American League first baseman, more than double the votes of Ben Rice of the Yankees, who's having a monster year. Kazuo Komodo and Junior Caminero are the top two at third base. Andres Jimenez is second behind Bobby Witt Jr. at short. Varsho and Jesus Sanchez are outfield finalists. And George Springer is the other DH finalist with Yordan Alvarez. So I'm the Blue Jays fan, but I'll give you first take. Are you good with the All-Star hitters being a popularity contest?
No, but no, I think this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't. And I would say that anybody, yes, I understand what everybody is trying to do. They're trying to get their team players on the all-star team. It's a social media escapade. It's a social media campaign. And clearly the Blue Jay fans are going out to vote. I don't want to discount their participation. But this all-star game stuff is already uninteresting in and of itself because there's nothing to play for. We are having a ton of trouble with all-star games throughout professional sports, and this is just another reason where people just get kind of turned off by it. I don't know, I don't know what other ways that you can, surely there are other ways to do this, but you've asked the fans to vote. The fans, so they are doing what you asked. So in that case, great. But in this, this doesn't give me it. And it's not because it's the Blue Jays. It's just how are you selling the game when you've got legitimately cast the only one in this conversation that should be part of the all-star game on this entire list that is presented here is Kazuo Komodo because of the amount of home runs he has, but everyone else is this is
Ernie Clement legit has the best second base numbers, so he's good too.
Oh, so yeah, okay, okay, fair enough, but top vote getter.
Yeah, that's the funny part, that he's only 100,000 behind Ohtani. Even if this wasn't the Blue Jays, I'm totally good when stuff like this happens, because baseball made the choice for it to be a popularity contest. So you're giving the fans choice to do whatever they want. And as a Blue Jays fan, I'm it's the All-Star game. Fans want to see names. Usually it's a lot more names with U.S. appeal. But if that's what they want the All-Star game to be, then so be it. And as a Blue Jays fan, this is fantastic. I have there's no apology in me about all of these Blue Jays being in the second phase. My childhood was of watching the Blue Jays was basically the late 90s and all of the 2000s up until 2015, when the Blue Jays fan base was dormant for my entire life because they had a less than $100 million payroll. So, yeah, they had Roy Halladay, but the team around him had no chance because they had a limited payroll in the same division as the dynasty Yankees and the Red Sox. And so, for the fan base to be awoken like this, I think it's awesome. I'm proud of Blue Jays fans uh, for showing up. The fan base is activated. Baseball in Canada is on a high right now, and this is another part of that. Um, so I love it, and if baseball wants it to be a popularity contest on the offensive side, then you get what you get. There's been, I can't remember the names right now, but there's been times in the past where there's kind of been there's been fan campaigns in the NHL voting to get fourth liners in or tough guys in.
Right, John Scott, yes.
Yeah,
It was a number of years ago. He got voted into the All-Star game. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, that's I think what you were referring to.
yeah. So yeah, I I love it. And like just getting a little more serious, the year of Ernie Clement. That's incredible. Um, journeyman guy. He's been through I think 3 organizations. He's been DFA'd. He was a role guy when he got to the Blue Jays. Had to earn his way into playing time. And last year something clicks, and he sets a record for hits in the postseason. He gets a spot on Team USA's World Baseball Classic team. And now he's leading the American League in votes for the All-Star game. So the year it's been for Ernie Clement is incredible. And he seems like an incredibly likable guy, to me, very likable style of play. So yeah, um, thrilled for Ernie Clement. But the being 100,000 back of Ohtani in the voting is a bit shocking, but that's what happens when you have a country behind you as a fan base that's excited. So I'm excited to see it.
Okay, but here's my pushback to this, and this isn't about the Blue Jays, but some of these finalists here are like Aaron Judge is injured, Mike Trout injured, Teoscar Hernandez injured, Will Smith injured. Like this is like the fact that I have 4 on here. Mookie Betts is on the finalist list. He's injured. I know that because I had him on my fantasy team. I had to drop him. Who else is injured here? No, there's someone else. Everyone else. Teoscar Hernandez. I mentioned him already. He's injured. There's like how you got 5 players in this finalist list that you're voting for that are injured and are not even going to play. That like that. This is ridiculous. Like this like great. Blue Jay fans are coming out and supporting their team. That's awesome. And I'm like at least the Blue Jay players, all of them on that list, they're playing games. Like there's injured players on this list. Like, can we not change this? Like, these guys are not going to play in the All-Star game. Why are we voting for them? That is the part that just grinds my gears. Like, I don't mind that fans are voting. Please don't get me wrong. But if a player is injured, you shouldn't be voting for. You should not have the opportunity to vote for them.
Well,
Like,
then
if you
that's up to baseball to put some parameters around it, and if you don't put parameters around it, then it's the star game. Fans are going to want to see the people with profile, the people with with resumes on their baseball cards. They want to see the big names. They don't care what they're doing this year.
Yeah, but
So if you want to see change, it's up to baseball to change something.
They're not. That's great. You want to see Mike Trout at the All-Star game, but Mike Trout is not going to play in the All-Star game because he's injured. Like, just say, okay, sorry, Mike. Just put in the thing injured, cannot vote. Like, and this what also happens here. And I'll point out to a guy, like I'll just use Otto Lopez as an example here. This is a guy that fully deserves to be in the All-Star game and probably will be, but the fans have a right to vote and know about Otto Lopez. What this is doing right now is diluting some of the younger stars in this game, like another guy that should get some All-Star consideration. Nobody's talking enough about James Woods in Washington, but he's having a phenomenal year. Where the hell is Julio Rodriguez in the finalist of all of this? As a Mariners fan, just kind of like there's like just like that's the part that's frustrating is they have new stars in the middle of like in baseball that they should be shining the light on, and this is diluting the product. That part I don't like. I don't like that part of this. If it's an injured player, if you're having an injured player should not be part of this vote. Baseball does need to change that.
Yeah, you said it. If they want change, then it's up to baseball to put parameters around it. If they're not going to put parameters around it, then fans can do it. Fans can do whatever they want.
Chase DeLauder, another guy, by the way, that people need to be talking about for Cleveland. I think he's an absolute star. Where's Connor Griffin? Kevin McConaughey? Where are some of these young stars? Why are they not on this list? Like, they are some of the most exciting players in baseball. Yeah, I know, I understand where you're coming from, Jonathan. But looking at
smaller fan bases, and they're not veterans, so they haven't had time to build national appeal to get votes.
I know, but there's a yeah. My point is, baseball needs to make a change here. I think. I really do need to make a change, and I think there's probably a reasonable discussion about what they need to do with the All-Star game anyway, which we don't have time for. But there's probably a conversation to be had about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we disagree on how fun this is. I'm the no fun Kevin. You're the fun Jonathan.
I love it, and I have no problem with it. But I think we both agree that if it's going to change, it's baseball's responsibility to put rules around it.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I just think just my only thing is just some of these young stars deserve the profile. So like they're having like Nick Kurtz, another name that just popped into my head, should be getting some All-Star consideration here for the A's. I almost called them the Oakland A's again. Anyway, is there anything else we need to talk about? I'm on a ranting kind of mood here tonight.
That's all good. I just wanted to do a couple of Canadian baseball notes. We had a major league debut for new Canadian last Wednesday.
Didn't see any. It was
Sorry?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was last Wednesday.
Go ahead.
Mitch Bratt debuts.
Oh, we freeze? Yeah, okay.
Last Wednesday, Mitch Bratt debuts.
I remembered this one. Go ahead.
For the Diamondbacks on last Wednesday. Only goes 3 innings, gives up a run on 2 hits with a couple of walks, and 3 strikeouts. But major league debut for Newmarket, Ontario's Mitch Bratt, left-hander for the Diamondbacks out of the Toronto Mets program. So congrats to him. And I wanted to get into some prospect type stuff very quickly. The Morneau Cup is a new Baseball Canada tournament taking place for the first time this summer, coming up here in a couple of weeks in Okotoks, Alberta. And what that is it's the 19U National Championship, the Baseball Canada 19U National Championship. And basically, in most basic terms, that level of play, it is the top of that level of play is academy programs. And so it's the top 16 academy programs are meeting in Okotoks to determine the U19 national champion. So it's kind of sort of like the Memorial Cup is for hockey, even though the landscapes are a bit different. And those are players that are about to go to college. A lot of them D1 college. Some of those players will be drafted out of high school. And that leads me into the mid-season top 100 rankings, top 100 prospect rankings came out this week. And Nathan Flewelling of Alberta, I will pull up his player card here. Nathan Flewelling played his college summer ball with the Sylvan Lake Gulls in Alberta in the Western Canadian League. He is now a rising prospect in the Rays system, a catcher, and he was ranked 77th in the updated top 100 rankings. And then Eric Hartman is an outfielder out of the Okotoks Dogs program, out of their academy, and played for their Western Canadian League team as well. He is having an enormous year in the Braves system. He's ranked 82 on MLB's top 100. And he's putting up numbers comparable to Ronald Acuna. He's on the verge of a 30 homer. He's on pace for a 30 homer, 30 steal season in the Braves system. Jonah Tong, who debuted last year with the Mets, it comes in at 83. And the other Canadian on that list is Charles Davalin. And I will pull up his card. He came in at 89 on the top 100 prospects list. He is in the Dodgers system as an outfielder. Played his college ball at Arkansas. He's from Waterloo, Ontario. So yeah, pretty exciting to see 4 Canadians working their way up the top 100 rankings, and those are the type of players that are coming through Canada's baseball programs now. And those some guys like those are going to be playing in the Morneau Cup in a couple of weeks here at Okotoks. So it's and the other thing that tournament does is these programs, they typically play large portions of their schedule in the U.S., just because that's where a lot of the games are and the competition is. But this gets Canada's top programs playing in one spot in Canada, in front of coaches, recruiters, scouts. So yeah, it's another, it's a bit of a niche thing, but it's another really I think, important development in the development system for baseball in Canada. So, yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to here in a couple of weeks.
Yes, the draft coming up on the 13th of July as well. I want to toss one more thing in here too. So I know this is a little last minute, but we have talked a little bit about the idea of Major League Baseball coming to Vancouver. That's where I reside. We both reside in BC. And while this is not Major League Baseball, this is an interesting news in terms of the building situation in Vancouver. A couple things I do want to note. It was announced today in the Surrey announced that there's going to be a new 10,000 seat arena that the Vancouver Giants are going to be playing in. Some conversations going on around who's going to pay for this or not, but that is the plan. So the idea would be that the Vancouver Giants currently play at the Langley Recreation Center. They hold 5,000, 5 to 7,000. They would move into Surrey. And there's some speculation that Chilliwack will move into Langley. We'll see about that. That's a whole other situation, I guess. But that just talks about the building situation that is currently going on in Vancouver. Of course, right now, BC Place is kind of at the spotlight. And I just want to say, I think it has looked absolutely fantastic for the World Cup and all of the games there. But of course, Amar Doman was on Sportsnet 650 on Tuesday morning talking about trying to figure out another situation for the BC Lions. We know that there's a situation with the Vancouver Whitecaps, and Mayor Ken Sim has said that there is a proposal and a thought to bring Major League Baseball into Vancouver. So this, like when we talk about Major League Baseball in Vancouver, the problem is where are you going to put them? And that's why I think that this Giants move, while not super significant in the whole Major League Baseball or Major League Baseball conversation, is a significant situation in terms of where people are going to play around Metro Vancouver. So I did want to bring that up because we have talked about Major League Baseball in Vancouver. So
yeah, and there's relation to the possible Major League team, but also maybe more realistic, even though I would love to see the Major League team happen, is the Vancouver Canadians at some point in time will need a new facility. We love Nat
yes, they
Bailey
will.
Stadium, and they've done a great job updating it. But everything reaches the end of its lifespan. So eventually, if it's the Canadians in Vancouver long term, there's going to come a day where they need a new ballpark, and we people in BC that hear a lot about the Canucks have heard a lot about how difficult it is to build around Vancouver, and yeah, the Giants being the lead tenant for that new hockey rink in Surrey that takes up one available plot of land in the Metro Vancouver area that is now no longer available. So someday, if the Seas have to move, it won't be to Surrey.
No, well, not yet anyway, but it's going to be in a good location. It's going to be by the SkyTrain, which I think will help the Giants fan base, which is really hard to get to Langley. So I think it is a good move for them, but it's just something to monitor. But let's leave it there. Of course, yes, Blue Jays Mariners, the first meeting since the American League Championship Series. So I think a very emotional series. We'll talk about that next time we get together. But how do we follow us, Jonathan?
Yeah, and so we're on socials. Outa LF Pod on X, Outa Left Field Podcast on Facebook. The Instagram is the same as the X. Our episodes are living on YouTube and Spreaker. Outer Left Field Podcast. Facebook, X, YouTube, Spreaker, and Substack Out of Left Field podcast. I think that's everything.
That is everything. Thanks for your patience,
And,
Jonathan. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and yeah, just before we wrap up, I did want to make sure that we made mention of the earthquakes that happened last week in Venezuela. Of course, massive baseball country, and two large earthquakes, and we've probably all seen the pictures and some videos and stuff. And I was watching the Tigers Yankees game tonight, and there was players with Venezuela patches on their hats, and there was video a few days ago of Wilson Contreras in the Red Sox dugout from Venezuela, getting emotional. I personally know some ball players who have come to Canada from Venezuela originally. So it's their homeland, and they have families back there. So, yeah, that one touches the baseball community quite deeply. So just wanted to make mention that we're thinking about everybody affected by that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. With that, all the prayers to Venezuela. Thank you again. Thank you for watching and listening. Go Canada for soccer. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. And oops. In and sorry, hang on one second here.